give you a little bit of background. I've been a funeral director for 31 years. My first job as a licensed funeral director was in Elizabethtown, where I worked for a funeral home for 11 years, and then started my own business just about a block from here on North Charlotte Street 20 years ago. Bought a building, rehabbed it, and opened for business. And when I did that, I had a particular business model in mind, and that was to keep my investment lower, to keep my overhead cost lower, and provide excellent service to families in a different way. And the way that we do that is we do not have any public visitations or services there. We will have private viewings, private services, but as soon as they're public or they're large, we have to find another space, a church, a chapel of a nursing home. This Friday, I'm having a service at the fire hall in Mount Gretna. So other venues. So then about 4 years ago, I was still thinking about doing service differently. And if any of you remember COVID, things changed a lot. We couldn't have funerals. And if we had funerals, they were private. They were limited to 10 people, all kinds of restrictions. And I had been witnessing a change in people's thinking. They knew what they didn't want. They didn't want a traditional service. They maybe didn't want to be embalmed. They didn't want a public viewing. They didn't want to spend a lot on a casket. They didn't want to spend a lot on a funeral. And they thought their only option was cremation. And many people are not comfortable with the idea of cremation. They're always looking for affirmation from their funeral director, from friends, from clergy, others that have input into that. So after listening to what people didn't want, I decided that I was going to create a second business. This is not replacing my original business, which is more traditional, but Simple Funerals is an alternative burial concept. It is designed to be traditional burial, not cremation, although we do cremations. But it is designed for those people that do not want to have a public viewing, do not want to be embalmed, and spend less on their funeral service, but yet have their complete body interred. So Simple Funerals is designed not to embalm. We have refrigeration that does a very good job of keeping the body stable. You are permitted to have a private family viewing prior to burial without embalming. But that's where it ends. We are not permitted to have a public viewing if the body is not embalmed. Another way that Simple Funerals is different than Spence Funeral Services or other funeral homes is that we have a different casket supplier. And I have two boards, one on either end of the room, of the caskets that we offer. And if any of you are familiar with the Souter Business furniture, made in Ohio, they started making desks and file cabinets and those things. Well, a few years ago, they ventured out into making caskets. And this is who is making the caskets for Simple Funerals. And they are extremely affordable compared to other caskets. So those are the ways that we are different than other funeral homes. And how Simple Funerals is different than Spence Funeral Services. We're operating out of the same building as Spence. We have the same staff as Spence, but they are two separate corporations with two separate business models. As you came in tonight, Brenda gave you a packet of information. On the left-hand side are various things that may be of interest to you, frequently asked questions, resources, information about pre-planning. On the right-hand side is a general price list. And on the inside of that general price list, I have put together 3 packages that are popular. An immediate burial with no service, graveside service, and then the final one is burial with a private family viewing and a graveside service. Each of those packages, you will see, includes a casket and a vault. So the bottom one might be $6,800 or so. That is all of our services, the casket and the vault. Okay? And then further in the price list, then we're required to present to you our itemized prices. And I don't believe in package pricing where that you have to get the entire package to get that price. If I don't want the soda, I don't want the soda. But then I pay as much to get the burger and the fries. I don't like that. So our package prices are just taken from the itemized list and added together. If you want to change something, you want to change the casket, you want to change the vault, you can do that. And you will not be harmed financially, nor will I. We'll just swap them out and make the difference in the price. So that casket is the Stockton. There, you can see it later if you want to take a look at it, but you can choose any of those that are there. And we also have others. We have caskets made of wicker. We have caskets made of seagrass. There are caskets made of wool. So if you're interested in biodegradable, we have those as well. The vault that you see listed there is called the Guardian. It's described as top seal. Cemeteries require the vault or the outer burial container. That is not a state law, but most cemeteries require it. And they don't require the top seal that I put there. That's pretty much the medium vault. There is one that is less expensive that does not seal, called the Grave Liner, and it's in your price list, and it's only like $100 difference. And I put the sealed vault in there. But again, if you want to switch that out, we just make the change. Or if your cemetery does not require an outer burial container, we just remove it. There are a few cemeteries in the area that do not require a vault, but most of them do. Again, it's not a law to have a vault. It's a cemetery requirement. You do not have to be embalmed unless you're having a public viewing. A lot of misconceptions around funeral service. And then under the umbrella of simple funerals, we go into green burials. And that is perhaps a new concept for some of you. A green burial's focus is impacting the environment as little as we can. And within green, I ask people, they say they want a green burial. Well, what shade of green? Because if you don't embalm, that's greener than a traditional burial. Or if you use a casket that is completely biodegradable, that's greener yet. If your cemetery doesn't require a vault, now you're getting medium green. So you're really green when you don't embalm. You wrap the body in a linen shroud, place it directly in the ground, in a cemetery that does not allow monuments. It does not use pesticides and herbicides, maybe mows once or twice a year, and restores the space to its original manner. So that is a real green burial. About a year ago, we had a burial like that in Akron. Akron Mennonite Church has a cemetery. and it is green. They don't permit caskets. They don't permit vaults. They do have flat markers. And that cemetery is available to anybody that lives within the borough of Akron or is affiliated with the Akron Mennonite Church or about a handful of Mennonite churches in the area that they have fellowship with. So that is that. But that gentleman, he died at home. We knew that he was dying. His wife had made the plans with his input. He wanted a green burial. When we were notified of his death, I went to the house. They had everything under control. They already had wrapped his body in a shroud. They were having people come in. I'm getting ahead of myself. They had people come in first. They were allowed to do that. You have 24 hours. They were having a public viewing in their home and without embalming, which they can do. But beyond 24 hours then, we must refrigerate, embalm, or put in a sealed container. So they were having friends come in. Before the 24 hours, they had him in a shroud. We returned, took him into our care, put him in refrigeration, and then made arrangements to have his body interred with a graveside service at Akron Mennonite Cemetery. So that is a very green burial. A lot of people are thinking that they're not wanting to use land for burial, that it is a poor use of space, and they're going to be cremated. Well, that's fine. That is an acceptable form of disposition. However, cremation is not green. It emits about as much carbon dioxide as an automobile driving 500 miles. So if you're concerned about that, a green burial is more ecologically sound.